Question 1. From the perspective of JavaScript's execution environment, consider web page where developer defines variable inside function and another with the same name globally. What is the key difference in behavior between these two variables when accessed inside and outside the function scope? A. The global variable cannot be accessed inside the function. B. The local variable shadows the global variable inside the function scope. C. Both variables are identical and interchangeable anywhere in the code. D. JavaScript throws an error if the same variable name exists globally and locally. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. In JavaScript, a local variable declared inside a function shadows any global variable with the same name within that function's scope. This means references to that variable inside the function access the local version, preserving encapsulation and preventing unintended side effects on global variables. Outside the function, the global variable remains accessible and unchanged. Question 2. When analyzing asynchronous JavaScript behavior, which of the following best describes how the event loop handles multiple asynchronous callbacks scheduled with set amount of varying delays? A. Callbacks execute immediately in the order they are scheduled, ignoring delays. B. The event loop waits until all synchronous code finishes, then queues callbacks based on their timer delays. C. The event loop blocks execution until the longest timer completes before running any callback. D. Callbacks are executed in parallel threads independent of the event loop. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. JavaScript event loop executes synchronous code first, then handles asynchronous callbacks based on their timer delays. However, callbacks scheduled with set timeout do not run until the specified delay has elapsed and the call stack is empty. The event loop cannot execute multiple callbacks simultaneously but queues them to execute sequentially, honoring timer delays. Question 3. Given the circumstances where a developer uses the call method on a function, what conceptual advantage does call provide compared to invoking the function directly? A. It permanently changes the function's code to new context. B. It allows immediate execution of function with an explicitly defined this value. C. It queues the function for asynchronous execution. D. It converts the function into constructor. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. The call method executes the function immediately while explicitly setting its this context to the first argument provided. This allows invoking methods or functions with customized object contexts without permanently altering the function's original definition, enhancing flexibility in reuse. Question 4. Which of the following scenarios best illustrates the difference between the null and undefined data types in JavaScript? A. Null means a variable has been declared but not assigned, while undefined is a deliberate assignment to indicate no value. B. Both represent missing values and can be used interchangeably without consequence. C. Null is an intentional assignment representing no value, whereas undefined means a variable is declared but not initialized. D. Undefined is a data type, but null is a function in JavaScript. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Null is an explicit assignment to indicate the intentional absence of any object value, signaling a purposeful empty state. Undefined occurs when a variable is declared but has not been assigned any value, signaling an uninitialized state. Recognizing this distinction is crucial for proper value checking and error prevention. Question 5. In the context of DOM manipulation, when using getElements by class name versus querySelectOr, what is a key practical difference affecting how these methods can be used in dynamic web pages? A. GetElements by class name returns a static node list, while querySelectOr returns a lit HTML election. B. GetElements by class name returns a lit HTML election, updating automatically when DOM changes occur, while querySelectOr returns a static node list. C. Both methods return the same type of object and behave identically. D. querySelectOr can only select elements by ID. GetElements by class name selects by class. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. GetElements by class name returns a by HTML election, meaning it reflects real-time changes in the DOM as elements are added or removed with that class. In contrast, querySelectOr returns a static nodelist snapshot of matched elements at the time of invocation, which does not update automatically, affecting how dynamic content is handled. Question 6. During the process of AJAX communication, what is the primary reason for choosing JSON or XML as a data interchange format in modern JavaScript applications? A. JSON requires more bandwidth but is more secure than XML. B. JSON integrates natively with JavaScript objects, enabling easier parsing and manipulation. C. XML is faster to parse than JSON in browsers. D. JSON cannot represent complex hierarchical data like XML. Answer. Correct answer, D. Explanation. JSON is preferred because it is lightweight, easy to read, and directly maps to JavaScript objects, making parsing simple with JSON. However, JSON lacks some of XML's features for representing complex hierarchical or mixed content data, which can be a limitation in certain use cases, though this is outweighed by JSON's practical advantages. Question 7. As illustrated by common JavaScript security concerns, why is cross-site scripting (XSS) a particularly dangerous threat when using client-side scripting like JavaScript? XSS allows attackers to bypass all server-side authentication mechanisms. B. XSS enables attackers to inject malicious scripts that run in the context of the victim's browser, potentially stealing data or hijacking sessions. C. XSS only affects websites that do not use HTTPS. XSS can be prevented simply by disabling JavaScript in the browser. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. XSS attacks occur when untrusted user input is embedded directly into web pages without proper sanitization, enabling malicious scripts to execute within the victim's browser session. This can lead to data theft, session hijacking, or unauthorized actions, highlighting the critical need for secure coding and input validation practices. Question 8. Based on the information about JavaScript operators, how does the strict equality operator differ fundamentally from the abstract equality operator A. The strict equality operator performs type coercion before comparison, while the abstract equality operator does not. B. Both operators compare values without considering type. C. The strict equality operator compares both type and value without coercion, ensuring more predictable comparisons. D. The abstract equality operator only compares objects, while the strict equality compares primitives. Answer. Correct answer, A. Explanation. The strict equality operator compares values and types without coercion, meaning operands must be identical in type and value to return true. The abstract equality operator performs type coercion if operands differ in type, which can lead to unexpected results. Using strict equality enhances code predictability and safety. Question 9. Which of the following best explains how closures enable powerful JavaScript programming patterns such as data encapsulation and private variables? A. Closures create a global scope that stores all variables used in a program. B. Closures allow functions to retain access to their lexical scope even after the outer function has finished executing, preserving private data. C. Closures convert all variables into public properties of the window object. D. Closures prevent any variable from being garbage collected, leading to memory leaks. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Closures allow an inner function to maintain access to the variables of an outer function even after the outer function has returned. This capability supports data encapsulation and creation of private variables, enabling modular and secure JavaScript designs that prevent external code from accessing sensitive data directly. Question 10. When considering JavaScript's built-in array object, which method would be the most appropriate to use if you need to transform each element of an array into new array without mutating the original, and why? A. For-each, because it returns new array after applying function to each element. B. Map, because it applies callback to each element and returns new array reflecting the transformations. C. Filter, because it modifies the original array while removing unwanted elements. D. Reduce, because it loops through the array without returning new one. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. The map Method applies a provided function to each element of an array and returns a new array with the transformed values, leaving the original array unchanged. This method supports functional programming paradigms by avoiding side effects and enabling predictable data transformation workflows. Question 11. Considering the evidence on JavaScript event handling, what is the primary advantage of event delegation in managing multiple similar event listeners on dynamically generated elements? A. It attaches separate event handlers to each element, improving responsiveness. B. It leverages event bubbling to assign a single listener to a common ancestor, improving performance and memory usage. C. It prevents event propagation entirely, ensuring handlers only execute once. D. It disables all default event behaviors automatically, reducing errors. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Event delegation uses the bubbling phase of event propagation to attach a single listener to a parent element. This approach improves performance by reducing the number of event listeners and ensures that dynamically added child elements also trigger the event, without attaching listeners to each individually, enhancing scalability and maintainability. Question 12. Under the assumption that a developer uses JavaScript's bind method on a function, what unique feature does bind provide that differentiates it from call and apply? A. Bind immediately invokes the function with the specified this. B. Bind returns a new function with a permanently boundless value and optional preset arguments without invoking it immediately. C. Bind modifies the original function's context permanently for all future calls. D. Bind only works with arrow functions to change their context. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Unlike call and apply, which invoke functions immediately, bind creates and returns a new function with a permanently boundless value and optionally preset initial arguments. This enables deferred execution and flexible reuse of functions with consistent contexts. Question 13. With respect to JavaScript's prototype-based inheritance, how does altering a constructor function's prototype property affect existing objects created by that constructor? A. Existing objects automatically reflect changes made to the prototype property after their creation. B. Existing objects are unaffected by changes to the constructor's prototype. Only new objects inherit updated prototypes. C. Altering the prototype deletes all existing objects created by the constructor. D. Prototype changes cause all existing objects to lose their methods immediately. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Modifying a constructor's prototype after objects are instantiated does not retroactively affect those existing objects. They retain references to the original prototype object. Only objects created afterward inherit from the updated prototype, preserving object integrity and predictable behavior. Question 14. In the context of secure JavaScript coding, why is input validation on both client and server sides essential to prevent injection attacks? A. Client-side validation alone is sufficient because it stops all malicious input before reaching the server. B. Server-side validation is the only necessary step since clients can be bypassed or manipulated. C. Combining client-side validation for user experience and server-side validation for security ensures data integrity and mitigates injection risks. D. Neither client nor server validation impacts injection attacks. It handle these threats entirely. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Client-side validation improves user experience by providing instant feedback but can be bypassed. Server-side validation is critical for security as it validates all input before processing. Together, they ensure robust protection against injection attacks like XSS or SQL injection by enforcing strict input constraints and sanitization. Question 15. When considering JavaScript's handling of floating-point arithmetic, what common problems should developers be aware of when performing equality comparisons between decimal numbers? A. Floating-point numbers are always exact in JavaScript, so equality comparisons never fail. B. Due to binary floating-point precision limitations, decimal calculations can yield unexpected results, making direct equality checks unreliable. C. JavaScript converts all floating-point numbers to integers automatically. D. Decimal numbers always round up when compared, ensuring consistency. Answer. Correct answer, D. Explanation. JavaScript uses E754 binary floating point arithmetic, which can lead to precision errors in decimal calculations, e.g. 0.1 plus 0.2 equals 0.3. Therefore, direct equality comparisons between floating point numbers may fail, and developers often use tolerance thresholds to check near equality instead. Question 16. From the perspective of the JavaScript, this keyword, how does its value differ in an arrow function compared to a traditional function expression? A. This in arrow functions is lexically bound to the context where the function is defined, unlike traditional functions which have dynamic this. B. Arrow functions always have this bound to the global object. C. Traditional functions do not have this value. D. Arrow functions create a new this context every time they are called. Answer. Correct answer, A. Explanation. Arrow functions capture this value from their enclosing lexical context at the time they are defined, making this static within them. Traditional functions have a dynamic this determined by how they are called, which can lead to different contexts and requires explicit binding in some cases. Question 17. During the process of AJAX requests using AirTrequest object, which reader state value indicates that the server response is fully received and the request is complete? A. 0, B. 2, C. 3, D. 4. Answer. Correct answer, D. Explanation. The reader state property AirTrequest progresses from 0 unsent to 4 done. A value of 4 means the operation is complete and the full server response has been received. Only at this stage should the response data be processed to ensure reliability and asynchronous communication. Question 18. Based on the information about JavaScript's built-in date object, what is a critical consideration when passing date strings in different browsers? A. The date object ignores time zones, so all dates are treated as tetra by default. B. The passing of non-ISO date strings can vary across browsers, leading to inconsistent results. C. Date passing is standardized and consistent across all browsers without exceptions. D. The date object automatically adjusts all dates to the user's local time zone without need for developer intervention. Answer. Correct answer, B. Explanation. Passing date strings that don't conform to the ISO 8601 format can produce inconsistent results across different browsers due to varied implementations. Developers should use ISO format or explicitly pass components to ensure cross-browser consistency and prevent subtle bugs in date handling. Question 19. Which of the following best illustrates how the local storage web API differs from session storage in terms of data persistence? A. Local storage data persists only for the current browsing session, while session storage data persists indefinitely until manually cleared. B. Both APIs store data indefinitely without any expiration. C. Local storage persists data indefinitely until explicitly cleared, whereas session storage clears data when the browser tab or window is closed. D. Session storage data is shared across browser tabs, but local storage is tab-specific. Answer. Correct answer, C. Explanation. The local storage API stores data with no expiration, persisting even after browser restarts, unless manually cleared by the user or script. Conversely, its session storage is scoped to a browser tab or window and clears its data once that session ends, making it useful for temporary storage during page visits. Question 20. Through the lens of form validation, what is a common limitation of relying solely on HTML input attributes like required or pattern without JavaScript validation? A. HTML attributes cannot display any validation error messages to users. B. HTML validation can be bypassed or disabled by users, making client-side JavaScript validation necessary for stronger data integrity. C. JavaScript validation is redundant because HTML always prevents invalid form submissions. D. HTML validation automatically sanitizes all user inputs against security threats. Answer. Correct answer, A. Explanation. HTML input attributes provide basic validation and user feedback but can be bypassed or disabled by users or incompatible browsers. JavaScript validation complement HTML by enforcing complex rules and security checks, ensuring more robust, secure, and consistent validation across environments. Question 21. Taking into account JavaScript's variable hoisting behavior, what will be the output of the following code snippet? Console log x of rx equals 5, a console log x a undefined followed by 5. B, reference 0 for accessing x before initialization. C, 5 followed by 5. D, null followed by 5. Answer. Correct answer, A, explanation. Due to hoisting, the declaration var x is moved to the top, but the assignment x equals 5 is not. Therefore, the first console log prints undefined because x exists but has not been assigned yet. The second prints 5 after assignment. Question 22. Under the assumption that a JavaScript developer wants to prevent default form submission behavior, which event method should be called within the event handler, and why A, stop propagation to prevent the event from bubbling up. B, prevent default to cancel the form's default submit action. C, return false, which automatically stops propagation and default action. D, stop immediate propagation to stop all other handlers on the same element. Answer. Correct answer, B, explanation. Calling prevent default inside an event handler cancels the browser's default behavior for that event. In this case, preventing the form from submitting and reloading the page, allowing for custom JavaScript form handling. Question 23. Based on the information about JavaScript arrays, which method would be most suitable for filtering elements based on? A condition and why A, map because it returns all elements transformed by. A function. B, filter because it returns a new array with elements that pass the specified test. C, reduce because it reduces the array to a single value based on a condition. D, for each because it loops through the array and returns a filtered list. Answer. Correct answer, B, explanation. The filter method creates a new array containing only elements that satisfy the provided condition. Callback returning true. It does not mutate the original array, making it ideal for conditional selection. Question 24. When considering JavaScript's event capturing and bubbling phases, what is the order of event propagation and how can it be controlled? A, bubbling occurs first, followed by capturing, controlled via stop propagation. B, capturing occurs first, then bubbling, controlled via specifying true or false in add event listener. C, events only bubble up the DOM tree and no capturing phase exists. D, both phases happen simultaneously and cannot be controlled by developers. Answer. Correct answer, B, explanation. Event propagation starts with the capturing phase. Events move from the root down to the target, then the target phase, followed by bubbling from the target back up. The user capture boolean in add event listener determines whether the handler runs during capturing true or bubbling false. Question 25. How might one explain the concept of callback hell in JavaScript, and which modern language feature best helps to avoid it? A, callback hell refers to errors caused by asynchronous callbacks, avoided by using global variables. B, is the excessive nesting of callbacks causing difficult to maintain code, avoided by using promises or asynchrate syntax. C, callback hell describes synchronous blocking code, avoided by using web workers. D, is a debugging tool in JavaScript that tracks callback chains, avoided by disabling breakpoints. Answer. Correct answer, B, explanation. Callback hell occurs when callbacks are deeply nested, making code complex and hard to read or debug. Modern features like promises and the asynchrate syntax allow for cleaner, more linear asynchronous code, greatly improving maintainability. Question 26. Given the circumstances where you want to store data on the client side that should persist even after the browser is closed, which web storage API would be most appropriate and why? A, session storage because it stores data for the duration of the session only. B, local storage because it persists data indefinitely until cleared. C, cookies because they automatically expire after the session. D, IndexedDB because it is volatile storage for short-term use. Answer. Correct answer, B, explanation. Local storage stores key value pairs in the browser without expiration, persisting even after browser closure or restart until explicitly cleared. This is suitable for data that must survive sessions. Question 27. Throughout the course of JavaScript debugging, what is the conceptual purpose of breakpoints and how do they assist developers? A. Breakpoints stop code execution. A specified line, allowing inspection of variables and program state. B. Breakpoints automatically fix syntax errors in code during execution. C. Breakpoints log errors silently without interrupting program flow. D. Breakpoints optimize code by removing unused functions. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Breakpoints pause code execution at specific lines during debugging, enabling developers to examine variable values, call stacks, and program flows step by step, which helps identify logical errors or unexpected behavior. Question 20. When examining JavaScript's try, catch construct, which statement best describes how it improves error handling? A. Try. Catch automatically fixes errors in the code during runtime. B. It allows the program to continue executing even if an error occurs inside the try block by catching exceptions in the catch block. C. Errors inside the try block cause immediate termination without running catch. D. Catch blocks must always rethrow errors after catching them. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. The try catch block allows developers to handle exceptions gracefully by executing code that might throw errors inside try and handling those errors in catch. This prevents the entire script from crashing and allows recovery or user notification. Question 29. In what ways can the async and await keywords simplify asynchronous JavaScript code compared to traditional promise chains? A. They allow asynchronous code to be written in asynchronous style, improving readability and error handling. B. They remove the need for error handling in asynchronous operations. C. They automatically parallelize all asynchronous calls. D. They are syntactic sugar over callbacks without real functional difference. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Async functions return promises and await pauses execution until the promise resolves, allowing asynchronous code to be written in a linear, synchronous style. This reduces complexity, improves readability, and simplifies try-catch error handling. Question 30. What factors contribute to JavaScript's single-threaded nature, and how does this affect the execution of code, particularly in handling asynchronous tasks? A. JavaScript runs in multiple threads by default, so synchronous tasks run in parallel. B. JavaScript executes one task at a time on single thread, but asynchronous tasks are managed via the event loop and callback queue to prevent blocking. C. Asynchronous tasks block the single thread until completed. D. JavaScript's single-threaded model means it cannot perform asynchronous operations at all. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. JavaScript is single-threaded, meaning it processes one operation at a time. However, asynchronous tasks like IO timers are handled outside the main thread by the environment browser Node.js and their callbacks queue for execution later, preventing the main thread from being blocked.